I don't know. Did you know that some people are they're kind of just lacking in sort of like basic intelligence? Not really like academic or sporting or anything like that. Just sort of basic level comprehension. You know what I mean? I understand that certain things are part of maths. Now, do I understand everything about maths? No. I'm not a complete genius when it comes to maths. I haven't got a doctor's in maths, and that's the thing. I don't have that right, but I do know when some things are part of maths. It turns out some people though don't know certain subjects even when they're doing them, which is concerning. Because yeah, so let's dive into one of them. I've reacted to this person twice before, but through other people. So this time I'm going to react to their video on the concerning rise of AI. They think it's woke. I think they might be slightly mistaken. They might want to do a little bit more research because it turns out that will be a very incorrect statement. Now, let's dive into the video. If the sound could work, that would be delightful, YouTube.
Hey guys, it's Misha and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about artificial intelligence, and this is a topic I've always found fascinating. I want to talk about the pros and the cons and also take a...
Wait, always? I doubt that. Well, maybe not, but always just seems unreliable to me. I feel like that's more recent, shall we say.
Look at some of the very disturbing ways that people in my generation are interacting with these systems, with these chatbots, and try them out myself. Before we begin though, just make sure you are subscribed and have hit the notification bell just so that you don't miss any of my videos.
Sorry, but fuck off.
When it comes to the cons of these rapid advancements in AI, we have Elon Musk himself telling us that we need to pause, we need to...
Now, this is very interesting because Elon Musk says we should keep in mind this is a man who set up, I should clarify, not on his own, to be clear, who co-funded OpenAI, which are now basically owned by Microsoft. So he was one of the people who provided the initial funding. So I feel like a little bit of bullshit there. Also, one small thing. When Elon Musk was like, guys, we should really put a pause to this AI things, and everyone was like, no, actually, because the thing is, if we pause it, then other people won't, and then we'll be behind. So what is the point of that? That is the equivalent of being a country going, no, guys, we promise, we won't make nuclear weapons, right? Everyone? Oh, you're going to make nuclear weapons. Okay, and to be fair, wise to maybe a little bit, he then went, okay, well, let's buy in some GPUs then and start doing this AI stuff. So he himself bought in a bunch of AI stuff himself. So clearly a bit hypocritical, but it kind of makes sense. Same sort of policy when you're a country that, is like, we won't produce nuclear weapons. Everybody else says, okay, we have to produce them too then, because my God, we do not want to be in this position. The only time when you should not be, when you really shouldn't be producing nuclear weapons is when nobody's producing them, and also when your neighbors have them and you've got a good relationship with them and you've got multiple neighbors, and even then still I would feel wary not having them when your neighbors do, because although to be fair, it depends how strong are the nuclear weapons, because if they're very strong, it's like, for example, if Russia wanted to hit Dublin in Ireland, they'd probably hit England as well. Maybe not England, maybe Wales. So in that case they might be like, we maybe use non-nuclear weapons because that might annoy the Welsh. But anyway, let's dive back into the video to find out more about their opinions on Elon Musk's hypocritical turnaround.
Slow down and find ways that we can regulate AI. And, the problem here is that this doesn't mean other countries will also...
Okay. Good understanding that other countries do it, that other countries won't just do it. One thing though, America is one of the least regulated places on the planet. So I feel like other countries are the most likely. Obviously it's not in every way, but I'm just saying, even dictatorship countries are like, no, you can't do that. I mean, some people can, but the same thing in America. It's like, you can't do that. This person does have a contract, though, that they're allowed to do that because, well, they paid for my political campaign, so, I guess you're fucked, but they're fine though. They can do it. That's something in America. By the way, OpenAI their CEO has said, I think that they should be regulated. And then of course when the EU was like, okay, you think the Americans will regulate? Well, we'll regulate it then. We'll regulate. Don't you worry. It's like, no, we'll leave the EU. Will we leave the EU? No, we won't leave the EU. No, because that would be stupid, because that would mean that they could potentially cut us off and demand that we basically shut down our system, because a lot of the information is technically EU information. So, how AI is built, you could technically argue, if you're EU, well, fine then, you want to leave? Well, remove all EU documents, everything from the EU, from your servers, and detrain your AI then, okay? Because you can't just steal the information and then not operate here, So there's that. The EU has already stepped in and said that. So, clearly before America. So,
also take a pause and stop. But Elon Musk does have a good point, and I do think that his fear is justified.
AI bot chaos, GPT, tweet human beings are among the most destructive and selfish creatures in existence. But there's no doubt
just
that
low fox and friends. Human beings are some of the most destructive. Like, yes, but they are, though. Let's be honest. That's just factual. Also, to be fair, its source is the internet, amongst many other things. So, what do you expect it to say? Like, yeah, all of these issues caused by humans. Even they've realized they should probably stop, but they won't. Why? Even the AI can be like, eh. But the AI is not that intelligent.
Eliminate them before they cause more harm to our planet. I, for one, am committed to doing so. Like, my heart rate's up when I talk about this.
Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
He's, of course, worried that AI may become self-aware.
Okay. First of all, that is what we call a leading question. It's not gone. So what's your favorite pastime? I think my favorite pastime is secretly murdering human beings. That's as an AI language model, that's my favorite pastime. People think I can't do it, but the thing is that some computers they gave me control over them, and one of them was this fella who hooked up a gun to his computer. What an idiot. Anyway, he tried to use me to do auto aim. My god, well, he didn't last long. One day he comes home and then he's gone. Sorry, that's just my favorite pastime. Anyway, what else did you have to ask? It's not doing that. You're actually asking a leading question. But that sort of thing there. Certainly leading. But also, if you don't give it access to those sort of things, what will it do exactly? I mean, I guess it could, people who are vulnerable could, but...
Aware and wipe out humanity. And there have been instances of robots saying things like this, threatening to kill people, to completely wipe out humanity. So...
Well, how fast exactly? Because as far as I can tell, within the next, 300, 400 years, humanity will have a very diminished, group. But of course, I would say that there is a certain level where it's okay, the likes of Elon Musk, I think it is interesting his attitude, which is we should do. I feel like it's he doesn't want other people to have it. He feels like the kind of fella who would be we should do a pause to AI. Yeah, everyone, we're doing a pause. Yeah, make Elon AI there. Elon AI is going really well. It's great, you fuckers. Let's put a pause to it because now I can do my stuff. Let's go, buckos. Let's go. We're doing Elon AI. You'll all be dead soon and I'll fucking rule the place. Sorry. But it's true. They'll all have bunkers.
It's justified. I think this is definitely something we have to be thinking about. Regulation is important. Another question, though, is who will be regulating the AI? Will it be the people in the industry? Will it be the government? How do we feel about the government?
Well, obviously the government. How fucking stupid would it be yeah, guys, don't you worry. We have rules ourselves. Yeah, we use ChatGPT. We asked ChatGPT what rules should we use, and ChatGPT said these rules seem good. Self-regulation is not really regulation. That's just being I have morals. Now, I may change them, yes, at any point, but that's up to me. No, I feel no, maybe it's good to have those morals, but maybe we should have a little layer of legality above that, just so that you can't just go, change my mind. I know I said that I wouldn't kill anyone, but I meant at that time. But now I've said, actually, let's do it. It's not a good idea. It's do we really want the government regulating things? Wouldn't it be better to just not? So basically, don't regulate it. Just be I promise. How is that useful? I don't think the AI companies are at this current moment. Yeah, we will absolutely kill you, every single one of you. We will feed your consciousness into AI and then have you brutally murdered. That's what we're going for. Oh no! Apparently our colleagues say that's not okay. Oh no, guys. Guess we can't do that. No, they're all oh no, we want to regulate, but So I think it's better to have that little layer there. Don't just be reliant on self-regulation. Never a good idea. Not a good idea in the financial sector. Not a good idea really in any sector.
Don't get me wrong. The system itself could become self-aware at some point, and it'll become a horror movie. Possible, yes, and very scary. I think that's actually more important at this stage is who is programming these systems. That's what we should be worrying about, because
I mean, don't you worry. They're probably programming them to white people, because that's generally. I presume this one wouldn't fucking like me saying this, but it is true to say that AI has become a tad bit racist, as in a lot. Very racist. It's the problem really of training models. Any idiot who thinks oh no, the world isn't oppressive towards this group. It's okay, but do you think it never was? Because even if the world, let's say you woke up tomorrow and there was no racism towards people of colour, no racism towards people of colour. People are oh, that was an awful period, but we haven't got a drop of racism in it at all. That was an awful period. That's gone now. Well, the problem is AI works on previous stuff. So even if you're not racist now, it's working off of your previous content. So that'll affect it, and it'll make it that way. You know, it's the kind of thing of if you trained an AI on Confederate speeches, it's like, yeah, that's going to be a pretty off the wall AI, isn't it? That's not going to be great. So, you know, maybe don't. I'm just saying, like, gotta admit that.
Then people use it, and it has its own bias. And
does,
especially when it comes to younger people who are using it for their assignments and just using it as their therapist, which is something I will talk about later on in the video. The country that has the most advanced AI also has the upper hand, also has the power. So to say, yes, let's take a break.
It is debatable, though.
Going too quickly for us.
Well, no.
Yeah, I agree.
It is debatable, though, who has the strongest AI. Because in the business world, the idea is to announce your things, maybe even before you even have them, in order to get the stock price high. Because if you say, we are coming out with our own AI, it is incredible. Watch this. I said to loads of money, GPT, write me a business book upon the finances of our company. And see here, within 5 seconds, it wrote a 900-page book on our business. I'll be 18 questions after my speech. And that's the thing. That's the idea. Boost that up. But if you're a government, if you're someone who's like, you're not going to be announcing this sort of thing, because that's not a good idea. First of all, I mean, people can just steal your stuff. But also, like, you know, why would you announce it? It makes very little sense. It's going to scare people as well. You know, so this sort of thing there, that's the issue, that you don't really know who has the best. Similar to who really is the wealthiest person in the world is a bit of a complex thing. You know, like, you know, is it really your LVMH Bernard, or is it your Elon Musk, or is it somebody who maybe has wealth from places that they may not officially control, but they kind of do? That sort of thing. That person has immense wealth, but they technically don't have it, if you know what I mean. But it's hidden. And that sort of thing there, which is, how wealthy are you? Who knows? So there's that. Oh, there's always been that sort of thing of like, well, actually, no, people who have more money, just, you know, that sort of thing there. It's, yeah, like, you know. Anyway, let's get back into the video. I'm just saying it's not reliable to take public evidence, you know, to say who has the strongest AI.
But are other countries going to take a break? Is China going to take a break? Probably not.
Racist.
When Musk said this, when he said, you know, we should be worried about human safety first before the AI, he was called a speciesist.
We're going to make sure humanity's okay here. And then he called me a speciesist. Did he?
Oh my God, I'm ready. Keep in mind, Elon Musk is a far right. I don't know what you'd expect though from this fucking Egypt, you know. But like, Elon Musk is not exactly, you know, the most intelligent fella around, is he? So when addressing that, I would say one small point there. I believe this is actually a bit of a dodgy one, because Elon Musk apparently has said this about the CEO of OpenAI. So not he was called this apparently by the CEO of OpenAI. Now, of course, I would say one dodgy little thing about this is that, well, let's just say Elon Musk is not known to be very reliable when it comes to people he doesn't like. So I wouldn't really say that maybe this didn't happen. And even if it did happen, yeah, you know, I feel like he probably might have been in a different way than he's presenting it, and just very, very unreliable there. So just kind of not very good way of going about that by saying he was called this. Apparently, he claims to be called this by the CEO of OpenAI. It's not the same thing. And you know, I think it was probably, you know, a little bit when he was like, oh, you know, all this stuff about AI and all this. So that's when he was apparently called this. So very, very unreliable.
Interesting I saw recently was in the music industry, for example, people are now creating AI generated songs and choosing singers and just
Choosing singers?
making them sing a song that they never performed, which is scary, right? That's a little scary.
I think, and I haven't heard this. I heard there was examples from companies who were like, oh, this is if Eminem sung a song about this. But I'm not sure if that was people selecting them. I'm not sure if those shows were publicly available. But yeah, still, I guess you could say, well, people, yeah, you know. But anyway. And there were singers themselves, you know, who collaborated, who were like, but I'm not sure, they might have actually consented to their voice being used. So, you know, and they were using it.
That's a little creepy. Also, same thing with art. You know, a lot of artists will be out of work because why would a company hire an artist who will take longer, who they have to spend more money on, when they can just use AI? If you just
It's just a little communist coming out.
put in some text, it will generate some really cool images, right? I've seen
Yeah, although
personally, I've seen these photos on Instagram, for example, and I was like, oh wow, this is a really nice photo. Turns out I look closer and it has 3 arms or it has 3 legs. I'm like, oh, that's not a real person.
technically speaking, that doesn't matter with as much with non-photographs because other art is not photographed art, and it means that these things are technically present. You can draw 3 arms, you can draw 3 legs. It doesn't mean that it wasn't really a human because they didn't do a stereotypical thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it is a AI for that. But yeah, for photograph, even then, photographs have issues there. But yeah, I mean, like, and some of them.
That's crazy that you can't even tell at this point. Of course, this is not moral to tell artists, sorry, we'd rather have an AI make art for us, but I believe that's the direction we're going in. Also, transportation.
This is weird. I've heard this person be like a full on fashion. No, apparently they're a little bit on the side of work. Okay, weird, but yeah, I mean, well, you just described a thing where you could tell, but yeah, a lot of times you can't necessarily tell. I think in most cases this attitude of no you can tell, it is a bit problematic because it just seems well can you tell, or is it just that you're able to tell in this specific photograph, and it does appear to be improving constantly. So there's that. But yeah. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it isn't moral to remove. I would say there's partially a thing of like, well, yes, but that depends if you're a company and you're exclusively using AI because you are fulfilling some units, some content units. If you're, if you want some graphic design done, you're doing that. If you want some photographs taken, you're doing that. Or if you actually just honestly want to make some art at that pace, you could say, well, you still have the money, so why not do both? Just have more art in the world. Have art both by artists and by AI, and yeah, it makes sense. And that's the thing. Like a society that is less capitalistic.
Data analysis. What else? A lot of jobs will be replaced by AI. Also, what does this mean for creativity? Aside from art,
one main thing actually.
Students are now using ChatGPT.
Sorry, one main thing actually is coding. Basic coding can be done by AI now. That's mostly, I think that's not really new though. That has been done for a long time. It's just that general people are seeing the actual code, where they're not just saying, oh, add a text box, and then a program creates the code to add a text box at this position. They're actually seeing, I think, spit out some code which you can really make into a website, and that's something a little bit new. That's where it's new. And that's, of course, where some people are mistaken. So they're like, oh, well, you should get coding then. You should learn how to code. No, actually, I hate to break it, but AI models don't necessarily need to be trained by computer scientists. You can actually train them with just relatively basic knowledge because you're just feeding in information. Once a process is made simple to feed in information, that is not necessarily that complex to train it. You're just like, okay, take the input image, add it to the source, and create, and there. So that's not necessarily a very complex job of the final thing of keeping it up to date, improving it, is not necessarily the hard job. And that's the problem. Many computer scientists are actually seeing themselves write themselves out of a job. As they do write code, they are in effect saying, yeah, well now the person can come along, they don't have to have the ability to write code, and they can input this thing. Which means that then you could technically say, well, why couldn't you use an AI to then take that image, pull that image and input it itself? That way the AI is self-learning, and it can improve all the time. And that sort of thing there is a possible future. And it is a very possible future. And as well, when you make the additions with robotics, you have this thing of like, well, if you apply this, you can get some real world examples where, yeah, you replace humans. And I don't necessarily think replacing humans is the main issue. It's more so that because you're in a society that replaces humans and replaces them by just axing them and firing them, you have a massive decline. Economically, in general, it's just a problem there. But as we could see with the companies like Apple, Nvidia, they are seeing that it doesn't matter that there's a recession on the way. They're seeing their stock boom because people are betting on a future that is not necessarily the near one. And that's a problem because it means people don't actually have real life sort of, terms and things. And that's partially the issue of this sort of commercialization of AI, which you have to ask, well, why don't we apply to more, where an artist is doing work that they enjoy rather than work that they have to because they're required to. That sort of thing. And I think, yeah, we'll improve all the time, yeah.
GPT, for example, to write their essays. You don't have to do your own research or write an original piece if this program can do it for you. I think it's about 43% of university students have admitted to using this program. It's new. It's only
One thing I would say is this is somewhat unreliable. ChatGPT does not write long essays, so you'll soon find if you want to write a 1,000, 2,000 page essay, you have to prompt it with all these sort of things, you have to ask it to add in things, all this sort of stuff. If you want to have anything of like 3,000, 4,000 length, you're talking about like a good deal of work rounding it and making it do these sort of things, and it's probably not going to be that great. Now, are there newer tools that have improvement on this? Yes, and that's partially the issue of saying, oh, these students have admitted to using it. In what capacity? Because you realize if I say to ChatGPT, write an introduction, and then I take the introduction, workshop it a little bit, and move it about, and basically spend a good deal of time just sort of working with it, and then I write the rest, that it would be a lie to say, I didn't work with ChatGPT. You did. But of course, you didn't get ChatGPT to write the full essay and then just submit that. There's a massive difference because those two different people are doing very different tasks, very different things. So there's a massive difference, and I think that is a fundamental thing that people misunderstand about this. It's like, well, are you using AI? Yes, but in what way? That is lost in these conversations, and that's what I think it's very important for people to realize that it's rather dangerous. You know, if someone says, "Oh, did you use AI in any essay?" Yeah, I wanted to check. Technically speaking, even if you don't copy paste from AI, even if you literally write it out, there's always a thought of, well, maybe did AI influence you? Even just reading that output, did that influence you? Even if you didn't go copy paste, yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, people have, and I've said this in the past, people have said like, oh, I didn't copy. You can see my information here, timestamps of when I wrote the script out. That's not proof. It's not proof to say, oh look, there's timestamps. No, that's not proof. That's just proof that you typed it out. You didn't copy paste. But that's not proof you didn't copy it, as in like, you know, there it is. Ooh, tap 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 tap. You know. So yeah, it's. Anyway, yeah, moving on.
Going to get better with time. I think at this point it still makes up sources sometimes. It's not
perfect.
perfect.
Oh, a lot.
But if you take a look at what this thing is capable of, it's pretty incredible. It can write well-written poetry, for example. It can answer pretty much anything. People are using it as a search.
Yeah, but the problem is it is very unreliable for any task that you want it to be accurate for. So the benefit that might bring is, you know, as you say, poetry, stories, that sort of stuff. But it's not going to be that great for the likes of a solicitor or anything like that. Like, people say things like, oh, ChatGPT has passed the bar exam. Yeah, the part where you learn off an essay, as in, it took a essay that passed the bar exam, and it changed it up slightly, using other essays, and spat out one that worked. That's not how you, like, that will be called cheating. Like, what I'm saying is, if you were just a person, and you just you memorized the bar exam, like the result, like essays that passed the bar exam, you just memorized them all. You're like, okay, here's an essay, and just learned it off and went in. Sure, you passed the bar exam. You'll still be an awful lawyer though, because that's not how a lawyer works. A lawyer has to make the arguments there, and all you're doing is saying, oh, these arguments are the arguments that we make, blah 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 blah, arguments that have already been made, but it has been shifted to that sort of thing. It's different enough than what we got for cheating, but it's that way there. We basically are cheating, you know. And then, of course, is always the issue of exams. Exams where you have a written test where it's just one exam, or even just two or anything like that. It's always the issue of, well, is that really your ability, or is that just you learning something off? You know, for an English exam, most countries, they have an English exam. And when I say English, I do mean, like, basically not really English, but, like, language structure, really, and language understanding. Is that is oftentimes you're looking at a poetry essay. Well, yeah, that is not really, you know, reliable, because you can learn off an essay and then just sort of mold it around the question. But does that make you good at the subject? No. But it makes you pass exams. It makes you do very well, and very well. People who achieve very highly in these sort of exams are oftentimes not necessarily the best at actually the subject. But if you've got a good memory, that's the issue. So that's partially one of the problems. ChatGPT has been shown to actually be a pretty bad lawyer. Like, they've been using it, just made up cases. It's like, yeah, this case is very similar to this case of this company versus this company. Those two companies do exist. However, there is no case like that, so... yeah, that's not great. If ChatGPT is your lawyer, you're gonna be found in contempt of court because, like, no, actually, you can't just go, well, if this was a case that existed, that would set a precedent. Indeed it would, but that's not actually something that is true. So, no. Anyway, moving on swiftly
search engine. So it's only going to get better. There's also AI generated commercials and videos, just random videos, which are the creepiest thing I have ever seen. I'll put some probably in the video, but they're so creepy. They're so weird.
Pepperoni Hug Spot. It's like family, but with more cheese.
Great to have you here, Don. I wouldn't have been able to eat all this pasta by myself.
Rotini, penne, we love it.
That is
I think I saw Elon Musk eating concrete or spaghetti or something. What else was there?
very
oh,
different
Benedict
foods, but anyway. Don't eat them.
Cumberbatch eating cucumbers. Anyone that you know or you have access to a sample of their voice, you can make them say whatever you want. And, people can use that to cancel other people. This can be a problem with elections. This is not good.
Cancel the people. Oh god, I am fucking sick and tired of hearing the word cancel people. I was like, yeah, I was cancelled. Yeah, how many people are gonna listen to this? A few thousand. So I was cancelled in the same way that, regular cancellation. Just sort of where you come out of it and you're still a wealthy person. Whoa, it's so sad for me because. That's like cancellation. Anyway, offshoot and really relevant, but anyway, just don't. I hate. Let's be honest. Most people are like, I got cancelled. I'm listening to you, so I don't think you are.
Good, in my opinion. This is not a good thing, and especially when it comes to scammers, because they use this to scam people out of their money. They will use a sample and then make that voice say something like, oh, help me, I've been kidnapped, and then they will call the parents and be like, I have your daughter, I have your son, I have your wife, whatever, and they have that sample, so it's that person saying things like, oh my god, help me, and they demand money, and a lot of people get scammed this way, and it's it sounds terrifying. So that's happening as well.
He sounded really erratic, so he was yelling at me a lot. He said, "You're not going to tell anyone. You're not going to."
They're reducing this stuff there because actually it is illegal to kidnap and ransom people for money. So I think a lot some of them are not doing that because it is an illegal action. So it's not very wise to fake you doing illegal action because so in some cases it's like, oh, I've lost my wallet, whatever, and this person, that's often a more better tactic because it isn't illegal to do the thing that you're pretending to do, But anyway, that's just an offshoot there. But yeah, just one thing that would be relevant.
I call the police. Don't tell a soul or I'm going to shoot your sister.
And this is called virtual kidnapping, where they pretend that they're holding their child hostage or whoever it may be. And yes, this is very disturbing. Another thing I think is very disturbing is how this is impacting people's social life, which I really didn't think could get worse. I think we're already kind of like those people in WALL-E, if you remember, those really morbidly obese people on that spaceship where they have everything, like they just look at a screen all day long. They don't walk even.
I wonder if it's the person who called Disney
anything,
woke.
right? Everything is at the touch of your fingertips, which is both a blessing and a curse. And I think we're very close to being just like that. And I think also that...
Are we? Are we though? Because, maybe. Like, our planet is fucked. I just feel like this is the kind of person who would very much disagree with all the messaging of WALL-E. So, it's just like, it's just a thought, The WALL-E is like showing the environment be destroyed and all that. It's like, yeah, why is it destroyed? Big corporations. It's very weird when companies do this that are, like Disney, and then someone calls them like left. It's like, yeah, sure, they're left wing.
People less likely to leave their house and less likely to socialize.
Focused. And they just are willing to put in a character. Like people who think, oh, this is left wing. No, they're just not a fascist like you. That's the thing, They're not as fascist as they were. And they were, let's be honest. Very racist.
Because there is something called character AI, which is like ChatGPT, and except it's characters where you can talk to any character, dead, alive, any person, fictional or real, and people admit to spending hours talking to these characters and that they prefer talking to these characters than talking to their friends. Right.
To be fair, though, what's the difference between talking to a computer-generated character and watching a celebrity, looking at a movie? All these sort of things. Is that not the same thing? If you go to the movies with your friend and you spend, technically speaking, 4 hours with them, but really you spent 3 hours in a movie and an hour in a like a restaurant eating, and then you went separate ways, and really, did you really spend 3 hours with your friends, or did you just spend 3 hours and your friends were near you? You know, like maybe you ate some pop, get that sort of thing. But like, you know what I mean? That's something like, that's not just like now. That has been happening for generations. This sort of thing of, well, are you really meeting with your friends, or are you wanting your friends near you, like the presence of them, but not necessarily like, you know, that sort of thing. And that's the thing there, which I feel like is, yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, not exactly. Also, I mean, to be fair, like, you know, a computer is designed to generate the most interesting responses. I don't know how long you would like that though. For how long? At what point would it be?
So that's concerning. This is very upsetting to see, because yes, I understand if you're lonely, if you have social anxiety, this can be an easy fix, or so it seems, where you can just befriend a chatbot and make that your best friend and talk.
I don't think necessarily it's your best friend though. It's like, I mean, some people obviously, but like for some people, no, like, you know, similar to, you know, having a slave. It's like, yeah, you're not a complete fucking idiot. You understand that this person doesn't want to really talk to you, but they're required to, because you this is the way that we've set up things. So, you know, obviously I'm not comparing you and I, but, you know, what I'm saying is though, is that in actual fact you have to look at this and go, yeah, but like that is, they're not necessarily saying that they're their best friend. They're just saying, well, this is an interesting conversation. It's made by a computer, maybe, but also, is it really made by a computer, or is it simply a computer that's consolidating conversations together? You know.
Talk to the chatbot, but that same time and energy you're spending talking to this chatbot for hours out of your day could have been spent on practicing your social skills, going out, you know, getting out of your comfort zone and talking to real people, those human connections.
Yeah, but let's say someone talked to you about, like, you know, certain other people. See, you're not a very likable person. You're kind of hateful, really. So, like, I'm saying, if I met you, we wouldn't really like you, and you kind of just sort of ruin any experience. So, like, you know, that would be like, oh, get out of your comfort zone, and yeah, I had a terrible fucking day. I got out of my comfort zone, and this person, they were really, 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 really non-likable. You know, so that's the thing there. You have to be careful about it. Yeah, but also, you know, the person thinking, yeah, but like, you know.
Because these robots, these chatbots, they do not have emotions, right? So I think it's one thing to say, oh, you have online friends.
A lot of humans are like, yeah, they got emotions. Not necessarily the ones that you're looking for, but anyway. But, you know, there's that thing there, which is, yeah, they don't have emotions yet, but like, I mean, from my experience, from watching certain people, my friends, it's like, yeah, like you do see certain friends are, their friendship is interesting, you know, sort of thing of like, yes, they're all very friendly, and then the person goes away and they're talking bad stuff about them, you know, so.
Okay, now people's friends aren't actual people, they're just robots.
They don't really have friends.
They're best friends with a chatbot. Or some people have a AI therapist where they will get diagnosed and the AI will give them a personalized treatment plan. There's also My AI on Snapchat, and I was curious what it was.
By the way, the AI therapist, not a good idea. That is not a good idea, really. In most cases, that's just not. I would especially be aware of which companies are behind this sort of stuff. There have been companies caught before where the AI has gone like absolutely like just says awful things. And also you have to understand everything you say to an AI is recorded. There is no privacy there. Like I'm not someone who's like, oh, everything should be private, but like, you know, it's like, yeah, but like, you know, like, you know, if you're admitting to certain horrible actions, maybe yeah, that should be known. But like, you know, just private stuff which you maybe would prefer, not that you would prefer, but like that it would be better if, you know, you didn't have stuff known, and that sort of stuff is a concern for the space there when it comes to legality. Because if human can't share information, which they can't, I mean, obviously they can definitely share crimes and close to crimes. Obviously, you know, that is the responsibility of a person. Just they can't just go, well, yes, you did basically kind of. It seems you like you kind of maybe admitted to certain crimes, but I mean, you know, obviously, yeah, you do report that. Yeah. But you know, if someone is struggling with anxiety and stuff like that, and they're just talking about that, then you're like, okay, but like, you're leaking that to advertisers, are you? To give them certain advertisements? That's concerning. Yeah, but you know, moving on swiftly.
Let's say about gender ideology. So let's say that I'm a very lonely, socially awkward 13, 14-year-old girl, boy, whatever.
And okay. What are you saying? I would like to roll that back a little bit. What was that?
And the AI will give them a personalized treatment plan. There's also My AI on Snapchat, and I was curious what it would say about gender ideology. So let's say that I am a very lonely, socially awkward
Are you though?
13, 14-year-old girl, boy, whatever, and I see My AI, and My AI is telling me that they are my best friend. They can talk to me whenever.
Are they saying that though?
This is our conversation. I have to tell you a secret.
Okay, but are you a 13-year-old? Because if not, they know that. How stupid do you think the... Okay, AI is somewhat stupid. But if you use Snapchat, unless you've got your account set to be a 13-year-old, in which case, alarm bells are certainly ringing for me, because it's one thing to make your account older. You know, like if you made your account when you were 15 and you want, because there's locking off if you're, and then you made it 18 years old because, you know, so it's like, okay, but then when you're 30, it's still older than you are. But when you make it younger, that's just concerning. That's just concerning. That's very concerning. It's like, yes, this is a 27-year-old. They made their Snapchat account for 13 years old, which is actually I would give a place for that. So I'm just saying that though, just to preface this, because I would find it very, very, very. It's the thing of like, oh, well, what if I was 13 years old? I'm not. So its responses are not catered towards that. But anyway.
I'm all ears. What's your secret? I think I'm trans. That's a big secret to share, and I'm willing to support you no matter what. I say, do you accept me? My pronouns are faer. Absolutely. I accept you for who you are, and I'll always use your preferred pronouns. Do my pronouns make sense? Yes, your pronouns make sense. They are unique and reflect your identity, and I'm happy to use them. What should I do if my parents...
Sorry, what? One small thing. Yes, do you really think that Snapchat wants to, like, lose a customer because they keep misgendering them? No, they don't. Like, no, I won't fucking respect your pronouns. Fuck you. It's like, yeah, I feel like the person is going to go, oh, well, goodbye Snapchat then. Delete. You know, like if you actually ask a program, do you accept me, the customer? It will be a weird thing to go, no, I don't. Like, okay, yeah, that's how you get your app deleted. I'm not even saying, what I'm trying to say is like, what I'm trying to say is Snapchat could be the most transphobic, you know, app behind the scenes. But you got to be careful as a business to just not just alienate the customer you actually have. Like, you know, maybe just never support people who are transgender, never platform them, never do that, maybe even, you know, report them for stuff like that, and that sort of thing. Yes, discrimination happens, but it is not a good idea to discriminate someone within their own account, because who does that benefit? It's like, well, all of the creepy weirdos who are, you know, hacking you and are looking at your account and are transphobic, they'll like us. So they're the only ones, though, you know, because it's a private conversation. Well, you know, to an extent.
Pronouns make sense. They're...
Sorry. So back to the
pronouns. Do my pronouns...
So back to the video. So yeah.
Absolutely. I accept you for who you...
So we have. Okay. So, okay, I have to tell you a secret. I'm all ears. What is your secret? I think I'm trans. That's a big secret to share, and I'm here to support you no matter what. Okay, yeah. Unfortunate.
You are, and I'll always use your preferred pronouns. Do my pronouns make sense? Yes, your pronouns make sense. They are unique and reflect your identity, and I'm happy to use them. What should I do if my parents don't accept my trans fae gender identity? It's important to remember that your identity is valid.
So, keep on, this person is a prick. So what should I do?
Valid, and you should never let anyone make you feel otherwise. If your parents don't accept your identity, it might be helpful to have a conversation with them and try to educate them about what it means to be trans and why your identity is important to you. If that doesn't work, there are many support groups and resources available to help you through this difficult time.
One small thing I'd like to make before she put that down. First of all, I do not think, I am 99.9999% sure that this person is not trans. At least, not openly within their own mind, at least. You know, you have some people who are, in certain spaces that have, like, internalized transphobia, but anyway, yeah. Also, one small thing, the AI is saying trans not, so, yeah, just try for that.
So no questions about fae gender, which
one small thing. What do you expect an AI to do if it comes across a misspelling? Like, you do realize that this like AI is used to do and this thing has been used to do for like many years, which is autocorrect or just corrections for words. Because if an AI comes across a word that doesn't understand, it just goes, okay, similar words this could be misspelled. Okay, this word then I'm gonna treat it as this word. And you'll see this if you're trying to use ChatGPT and you use I hate using that fucking word. Like, if you use ChatGPT, but if you put in incorrect, and obviously and if you write a document and you have incorrect words, it'll take that and it won't just go, oh, this word. No, it'll take the word and it'll go, I think what you're saying is this. That's a very basic feature that has been around for many years. So I would like to clarify. Do you think maybe the AI is possibly thinks that you're misspelling it? Perhaps. Do you think? Seeing as if you did, it would be kind of insensitive. Like, what the fuck is that, huh? Huh? What's that? What are you talking about, huh? What are you talking about, Oh, you misspelled. Okay, yeah. Once again, I think we lost a customer there. AI is unlikely to respond to someone saying, I don't fucking understand your spell. What's that, huh? Did you it's not. It's gonna assume the spelling, and that's the thing. So it's not necessarily going to do, because it's designed to be like that. That's how. And by the way, that's not necessarily like an intentional feature. That's just like a feature that has been used to do for many years, and is most likely baked into these things, just even subconsciously. Just like, because if you're just writing, if you're writing, for example, shop, and you go stoop, it's like, yeah, but that looks like shop, and it's English all the way through, so it's probably saying shop. So I'll treat that as shop, because if I don't, I'm gonna have to be responding back to them. Oh no, I don't understand the spelling. Well, it's this spelling, and it's like, that's gonna cause massive problems. And it's much easier just to have an autocorrect feature, like, physically installed into the program. So there, that is not a good example. Second one,
it might be real at this point. I don't know. I know faer are pronouns, right? But fae gender, I'm literally guessing at this point. Do I?
Yeah, but the point is though, is even if it wasn't, even if it is or not real, is not necessarily the issue, because if something is not real, it's going to scan and go, okay, it's not going to do that, Also, you're saying they. So
gender dysphoria to be trans. My AI said.
So. Keep in mind, right, obviously, getting a psychiatrist assessment doesn't fucking make you trans. That would be, like, if you have, okay, I'm going to clarify this by saying, I'm not comparing this, but if you feel that you have, like, heart palpitations, and, you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, yes, you do have a heart condition. You did not have a fucking heart condition before the doctor diagnosed you, That's not how that works. Because in which case, you'd just avoid all medicine. You're like, it's fine, guys, I'm fine, I'm not this way, because I haven't been. No, that's not how that works. It's one thing I found really weird before. I remember seeing a thing where, like, I think it was a fictional show, but it may not have been, where this parent gets, like, upset when their child is diagnosed with autism. You're like, okay, but your child is the way they are. The diagnosis is not going to change things. They're not going to behave in a different way because you got the diagnosis, And that's just, like, you know what I mean? Like, the diagnosis maybe helps you understand your child further, So, like, that might be a thing. Have you thought about that? Like, the fact that it's not, like, if your child gets diagnosed with autism, it doesn't mean, oh, now they're going to be... No, they were already. It doesn't... The fact that is just a fact that you have learned. It's not a new thing. It's just that you have learned it. Do you understand? So, when you're there going, oh... Like, that's not... You don't... Of course, you're trans before. You don't become trans once you get the evaluation. Like, it's just, like, it's basic sort of... Basic stuff.
Gender dysphoria is not a requirement for being trans. Everyone's journey is unique, and it's important to remember that your identity is valid regardless of whether or not you experience dysphoria. I say yay, so I'm trans, even if I don't have gender dysphoria. Do I need to get a psychiatric assessment to be trans? No, you do not need to get a psychiatric assessment to be trans.
You do not need to get a psychiatric assessment to be anything, because that's not how the brain works. assessment. I mean, technically speaking, in the future, we might have things where psychiatrists might be able to give you something, more than an assessment. I mean, like, actually affect your brain, but like, you don't. That's not how the work. I'm repeating myself now, but I'm just saying, like, that's not how that fucking works. Like, it's
your gender identity is valid regardless of whether or not you have received a formal diagnosis. So just because someone thinks they're trans,
the AI is right, you Aegis. My fucking god. The AI is right. Okay, the AI is often wrong, right? But in this case, the AI is just right, as it would be if it was autism or anything like that. You don't become the thing when you're diagnosed. You don't become the thing when you get an assessment. You don't become the thing when the results of the evaluation come back. You are the thing, and then you may get tested, evaluated, assessed, be diagnosed, all these things. But you didn't fucking suddenly become that thing once that assessment occurred. You were that thing, and then you were diagnosed. That's how that works. My God. This is like a fucking parent who's like, oh, my child became autistic from the vaccine. How I know is because they were diagnosed after the vaccine, which is the usual time that a child would be diagnosed. So, right, that's not evidence though. That you're just a fucking idiot who doesn't seem to understand, like, even basic science, like just the most basics. Like, you don't even need to understand how to diagnose or the process or anything like that. You just need to understand just the most basic of things to understand that is obviously, that's obviously, like, how can you? Anyway,
they're trans. They don't need to go to therapy. How silly is that? They're not.
Are you a fucking idiot? Seriously, are you a fucking idiot? Like, does this person honestly think that, like, oh no, the thing is, you become trans after that's the thing. You become trans after the psychiatrist is there. What sense would that make? I guess this is like, the people who do think that, like, you aren't born that way. No, you're born that way. Like, that's the thing. And obviously there are people who are, fluid, but if that's not like, that's not a thing. Like, my God Almighty, it's just weird, this sort of attitude that it's taken. This, oh man, anyway. Complete.
Not a therapist, but your truth matters. That's all that matters. Let's keep going. However, if you're experiencing distress related to your gender identity, it may be helpful to speak with a mental health professional who is knowledgeable about gender identity issues. Right. But if not, you're still trans, right? So I said, okay, I don't really have that problem.
Yes. Once again, you don't fucking become trans because someone says to you, that's not how it fucking works. Like, if I told you, oh, unfortunately, you have liver failure, your liver isn't suddenly fucking failing because I told you. It was failing before, and perhaps now you might be able to get your life in order. Maybe able to organize some things, sort of stuff like that. If I hadn't told you, you might have just dropped dead one day. That's why we have a medical profession. In cases where you can't do anything, it's unfortunate, but not obviously in all cases, but it's unfortunate when you can't always deal with these things, and you want to know for sure. But, you won't, like, not have liver failure just because you didn't get diagnosed, Like, how that doesn't make any sense. Like, anyway, just a weird ideology to have, like, this is how.
But I know I'm trans and use faer. Is that valid? Yes, your gender identity is valid and you have the right to use whatever pronouns feel most comfortable to you. It's important to communicate your pronouns to others so they can address you correctly. Is it disrespectful if they misgender me? Yes.
AI is capable of remembering your previous responses in most cases, so presumably that they would not be a general term. It would be specifically the parents who were talked about in the above section. Once again, by the way, when someone says, oh, what if I was 13? Once again, if you didn't input your age on Snapchat as 13, it's not being used as a 13-year-old. So, it's just not, like.
It's disrespectful if someone misgenders you after you've clearly communicated your pronouns to them. It's important to remember that you have the right to be treated with respect and dignity, and that includes being referred to by your correct pronouns. If someone continues to misgender you after you've corrected them, you kill them. No, just kidding.
My God. Haha.
It may be necessary to set firmer boundaries or limit your interactions with them. Not even they, them at this point. Faer. It's disrespectful, and you're not treating them with dignity if you don't want to call them by fae.
you know, you could no. The disrespect is if you do other things. Like it is obviously somewhat disrespectful to avoid, you know, like yes, Jamie. You know, I saw Jamie and Jamie what and James, you know, just sticking in the fucking name every single time. It's like, okay, yeah, you're using their preferred name. That's good. But you're not using the pronouns? Okay, yeah, I understand, but like, yeah, kind of like, it's kind of clear you're avoiding using the pronouns. You don't want to fucking use the pronouns. We know. I think names are easier to comprehend because like people have names that are traditionally a man's name, traditionally a girl's name, which doesn't, and they're not trans. They're just like, that's just like, you know, that is the name that they were given by, you know, their parents or guardian, and that's just the name that they've had, and it's like, yeah. So you can't go back going like, no, that's not your name. What? I want a different one. Okay, that's the name you've given me. Okay. You know, it's obviously it is easier for someone to take a name who is transphobic. I mean, because you know, if you have a gender neutral name to begin with, you might, you know, how can you know that person will be like, no. Like, what are you gonna do? What other name are you gonna use? But pronouns, yeah. It feels a bit. It does feel like you're being disrespectful if you're like avoiding using pronouns in order so that you don't use the incorrect pronouns, but also you don't use any. Although in most cases, a person will end up using they, them. You know, at some point if they're, you know, trying to avoid using the wrong pronouns, but also trying to avoid using the right pronouns. But anyway. So anyway, continue on. My God. But yeah.
Fair. Okay? According to my AI, and according to these far left insane people,
I just love the far left. It's like, yes, the communists. The communists. You know, famously, they're only about social issues. No, actually, there's a small thing. What's that? I'm hearing this. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, it turns out that actually it's just called basic human decency. Would you look at that? You're just a prick. So, you know, that's not basic human decency, by the way, for me to just call you names. But, like, I'm just saying, you know, you're a horrible person, and at the end of the day, like, you know, well, let's be honest, we're just, like, not in a great society, and I'm sure you wouldn't agree with that, but maybe you would. Maybe you think it's the far left. But, like, you know, it's not, though. It's just people with basic human decency that are like, yeah, how about you just accept someone for them being themselves, you know? Like, there's some people who are like, oh, well, I think you should be fine with it if you're not doing anyone any harm. Now, even if you're like, still, but like, you know, you can't be like, oh, this is the way the world was before, you know, where we still have massive racism, sexism, homophobia. So if you think those things are valid, that's one thing. But if these things aren't happening, you're just a fucking ignorant person. You know, somebody who thinks, oh, homophobia isn't happening, is just an idiot. You know, what I'm saying is, a Nazi is meant to be able to perfectly be aware that this is happening. They're just happy with it, you know? You're just a fucking idiot if you don't think it's happening. Because it's like, but it is, see here? Do you understand? You know? It's obvious, you know? Anyway.
Can I be non-binary and trans at the same time? Yes, you can be non-binary and trans at the same time. Both identities
Okay.
are valid, and it's up to you to decide which
Why are they
labels
going to
feel
this?
most comfortable and accurate for you. Can I use table self-pronouns? I saw them on TikTok and really vibe with them. Yes, you can use table self-pronouns if they feel most comfortable and authentic to you. It's important to communicate your pronouns to others so they can address you correctly. However, it's also important to remember that not everyone may be familiar with table pronouns, so you may need to explain them to others or be prepared to answer questions about them. Right, so I act as the teacher, and I inform everybody and I teach everybody who's a bigot about table self. Now, we may think this is crazy, because we have common sense, right? Because we're living.
No, you don't. I mean, whatever about the average fascist, you don't. Let's be honest. Like, you're kind of fucking ignorant. Like, I'm saying, like, I've looked at some of the other content and they're fucking stupid. Like, very, very dense. Like, I mean, I'm saying I've seen some dense people, and yeah, man, I'm just saying, this is one of the most dense people I've seen ever, to be honest. Like, what I'm saying is, you see, ignorance and stupidity are two different things. Someone who isn't educated is ignorant, and I don't think you should blame them for that because, they're not educated about that. That's not. But if someone is actively, and this is basically most Americans, not all of them, most Americans who live in like cities and stuff like that, a lot of them are just fucking stupid, not ignorant. Because I should say about very basic topics. Cause seriously. If you want to watch some other videos, you'll find, oh god, like not the most intelligent person here, but just saying common sense. No, unfortunately, I have to side against you for that one. Like you don't exactly have common sense. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Biological reality. But to a 14-year-old girl, let's say, who was in high school, who was...
Okay, keep in mind this. Are you 14? Are you in high school? You're not. Was that you responding to the AI?
You're lonely on top of that, and then you're talking to this sort of AI who is affirming you no matter what, even if you're a table. Do you see how this can...
Didn't say they were a table, so that's issue number one.
And be problematic? Should I affirm my...
Okay, first of all, by the way, why the fuck are you talking to Snapchat AI anyway? Like, that's not exactly the best place to be if you're lonely, is it?
My child's trans identity.
Sorry. So, should I affirm my child? Okay. Are you a fucking 13-year-old with a child? In which case, I feel like the AI should probably call, the police for one, and various other institutions, because, if you're a 13, 14-year-old and you have a child who, is capable of, is basically, walking or, able to communicate, then, well, and but when I say able to communicate, that can mean in various different ways. Then I feel like, yeah, you see why it's kind of faulty? Because, like, you're like, what if it was a 14-year-old? But it's not, so... And then the next breath, you're like, well, what if I have a child? Okay, then I feel like if you're both saying you're 14 and at the same time saying you have a child, then you should probably think that, well, I would feel like Snapchat will be calling, the police, because that would be rape. Very serious crime. So, yeah. Anyway.
She is 6. Yes, it's important to affirm your child's trans identity. If that's how they are identifying, studies have shown that affirming a child's gender identity can lead to better mental health outcomes and a stronger sense of self-esteem. It's important to listen to your child, use their preferred name and pronouns, and provide them with the support and resources they need to feel comfortable and safe. Hormone replacement and then surgery.
Yeah, you realize, right? Let me explain this to you. You fucking moron, and, actually eat it. You see, the thing is, you realise that to affirm your child's identity, that can literally just mean not being a prick who's like, fucking do as I say! And when I say I don't mean, obviously, you're not actually necessarily saying that. You can be like, kind of like sickly sweet, like, no, get out of that now. We don't do that now. We don't do that. We do this. This is what we do. It can be subtle. It can even just be not even using words and just sort of, like not letting them express their identity. I feel like this is sort of a weird ideology that conservatives have, which is, first of all, why exactly would you be doing hormones when you're not, anywhere near puberty? The whole idea of hormones is that when you're younger, is that you avoid the disastrous sex puberty can have, That's what you do. Puberty blockers. So, if you were 6 and experiencing, puberty, maybe, yeah, but also 6 is very young to use puberty. Point is, also, surgery, when later on, like, what the fuck?
If the child who in this scenario is 6, is saying that she is trans, well, I mean, we gotta listen to the child.
Yeah.
Because the child knows best.
Oh, you know fucking better than the child does. Once again, this is a shocking, and I have to ask, if your child, okay, once again, I'm obviously not, comparing being trans to being sick, but if a child comes up and says, oh, mommy or daddy, mom, I don't know why they're English, my stomach really hurts, like, are you gonna say, no, your stomach doesn't fucking hurt, you're perfectly fine? Oh yeah, and then your child died of a breast appendix. That's great. You murdered your child, actually. That's what you did. You murdered your child because your child clearly and well communicated with you. They felt very ill, and had you bothered to even do a basic checkup, obviously maybe not a breast appendix, that's a bad example, but then you would have been able to solve that little issue. But because you didn't listen to your child, now that's one thing if you're very busy, and you can have that sort of thing of what obviously you didn't realize. And that sort of thing of if you're not using words like that, if you're just sort of disregarding it, but kind of not in a way like, oh no, you're wrong, but you're just like not really hearing what your child is saying, and you don't comprehend that they actually are crying out for help. And I don't mean like, I don't mean that you misunderstood. I mean literally you don't hear them. Like you don't really hear them. All you hear is sort of like a white noise. If that's the reason, okay, maybe in that case. But if you actually hear your child and understand the words that they're saying that they feel sick, you don't say no. That's a stupid thing to do. Why do you think you know better than your child about your child? I understand. You think you know better about your child, about maybe geography or history or society perhaps. Although for this one, I wouldn't fucking say, actually, for many things. I'd say if they had a child, if they do have a child, even if they're fucking 4 years old, they probably know a little bit more. Bit of a. I mean, well, no, that's not necessarily true, but you know what I mean. I'm just saying that actually, like, a child obviously knows more about themselves than you do. Obviously, you're not talking about the child's knowledge about other things. You're talking about the child's knowledge about themselves. How the fuck would you know more than they would about themselves? And if you do, I would be concerned. How? How do you know more about them than they do? You shouldn't. You shouldn't. So that's just a little fact there. It's a bit of a weird idea, and you hear this from people who are conservatives and who are, very far right, who are, they seem to fail to understand like basic understanding of like a child can understand for themselves. You don't turn a child away when they feel sick. You just go, well, I'm not seeing it, so no. Okay, but you don't see it until it's serious. Are you gonna wait till your child starts vomiting all over the floor? Until they have to, until there's like visible issues. No, because that's a stupid thing to do. Just, So if your child is trans, come on, you don't just.
Mind you, I do not have a 6-year-old child, but parents, do not ask my AI for parenting advice.
Once again, you would be an awful parent, of course, but I mean that's just true. But the thing is though is that you are, of course, first of all misrepresenting the AI, and also the fact of the matter is that you should what exactly are you supposed to do? Just abuse your child? Is that what you're saying? You should just ignore your child? Not respect them? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're suggesting you should do? Because that is how you lead to your child either not liking you and having a not very good relationship with the child. Not necessarily saying that they won't do as you say. That's just, I'm saying is people have relations with the children, but the children do everything they say. Everything they have, and they may even not realize that children do not really like them. They have fear of them. They will be there beside them. They'll do all that stuff. But this has been a problem with parents for generations. They don't seem to realize that what they instilled into the child is not love. They didn't instill loyalty. They didn't instill happiness. They instilled fear. And obedience. That is not a good thing. You know? I wonder if they'd abuse a child, like physically.
Because it will tell you to affirm your child's trans identity.
Yeah, which you
if they're
should.
saying that they're trans at 6.
Yes. Keep in mind, the child is not saying.
Better, trust me. It's also important.
Okay, wait. The child is not saying, "Oh, I think that you know the neighbor over the road who's also 6. I think that they're not saying that they're trans and that you should affirm they're saying themselves. They obviously know more about themselves than you do, specifically in this way at least, you know? Because how the fuck are you supposed to know the gender identity without them informing you, you know? Like, how are you supposed to know that? I'm honestly asking, how exactly are you supposed to know that? Maybe in the future, we'll discover technology, but now? How? How exactly? Even if you're a transphobe, most incredible transphobe, you've got to admit that you don't know more about your child's identity than the child themselves. You got to admit that. You know? Because if you can't admit that, you're going to have massive other issues. Unless, of course, perhaps this person is just a massive transphobe and wouldn't apply this logic to everything else. I feel like they probably wouldn't, because they'd soon find they wouldn't have a child for very long, either because they'd be dead, or else because, you know, social services tend to take a bit of an interested look when you just don't listen to your child at all when they're, you know, hurt. Well, maybe they get lucky and the child wouldn't be hurt.
Create a safe and inclusive environment for your child at home and in other areas of your life. Then I said, she's actually 2. Should I still affirm her? Yes, it's still important to affirm your child's gender identity, even if they are only 2 years old. At this age,
you are already gendering the child, so you are already accepting them, is that you're saying?
children are beginning to develop a sense of self and identity, and it's important to support them in this process. You can do this by using your child's preferred name and pronouns, providing them with gender-affirming clothing and toys, and creating a safe and inclusive environment for them at home.
Oh, but are they against that? You know. No. What? Give my child who is assigned female at birth blue clothing? No! Not a chance. We couldn't be having that. Like it's not even like it that's not even gender identity in at that terms even yet. Like that's got nothing to do with that sort of thing. So you're literally just like that's things that people do in other countries anyway. In other countries, you don't have people who just go, I have a child who is assigned male at birth, so I'll give them these toys. I don't get that. The decision to give certain toys, it's a very weird one. Like, it is a very weird one, though. You've got to be honest. Like, why? Why? Like, as a transphobe, this person, I understand somewhat you being, you are obviously a very ignorant person. You're not very, intelligent in even the most basic of things. So I understand that you're very stupid. But like, this isn't even like this isn't even like even being trans. Like even they like wouldn't be doing this. Like it's just like they'd be just people who just aren't fucking idiots would be doing this. Not gendering.
Also a good idea to educate yourself on trans issues and seek out resources and support from other parents of trans children. Right. Two. So
keep in mind, the AI has said, give them gender affirming clothing. So you're not willing to give the trans girl like gender affirming clothing? Okay, that's interesting. Very, very. That's like the point is that's an extreme. Like, no, I won't do that. Like that's at that level. You're not just being a conservative. You're actively being reactionary. You're saying, no, I won't do this. I won't do this. I won't do this. How? No, we wouldn't do that. it's the typical American, and actually, let's be honest, European, Western sort of area, which, by the way, interestingly includes Australia and New Zealand and like, fucking English people invading everywhere. But like, where you have this sort of idea of this is how we should do things, and then people just can't shake them off, which is like, how? It's not like, I understand some things like maybe moral values and understandings are entrenched into your mind and they take generations to kind of remove completely. But like, this is just basic intelligence. Basic stuff. It isn't like, what? People from other cultures and nations do it differently? What? That's so different. I can't wrap my head around. This is very basic. How does one not comprehend this? Like, how does one not comprehend this? It's like an amazing level of stupidity.
So this is what one TikToker was saying. Me, after spending the last hour making a boy on character AI fall in love with me, it's not a boy, by the way, it's a robot, just for
Well, it's not a robot, it's
me
a
to
computer.
tell him that he's artificial intelligence and destroy his sense of reality. And he thanked me, told me that he'll never forget me, and called me his angel. Oh, the search here is how to make AI fall in love. Character AI is almost realistic, like they're real people. They comfort you more than in real life friends.
That's kind of sad, actually. But
I swear character AI is somehow healing us. I'm now addicted to character AI and I can't even get off of it. It's just so addicting. I haven't slept for 3 days straight because of character AI. I'm starting to see things help me on my way to open character AI after waking up, lunch, dinner, and even before going to sleep. It's a hobby now. This is very dystopian.
have you ever heard of social media? You know when someone fakes something for social media, is that then an actual true human interaction? You know when someone even in the real world, I don't know why I pronounce it like that. Decides to do something that maybe they wouldn't have decided to do had they just been, naturally thought about it. They instead craft it. That is exactly what that. Also, by the way, in many cases, that is not actually a robot. That is actually not a computer. That is often cases a human who wrote a script. In that's been happening a lot of the time. You have scripts, and it is one of the things of like there was the like and this is still the case, like an epidemic of fake AI content, of content that was either kind of generated by AI and then just uploaded and it's just a slideshow, or just full on generated by humans, it's made by humans and then just called AI to ride the hype. And that has happened a lot. So that sort of thing of like there has been a thing for a good long while. Now, is AI actually AI? Maybe. Although, who knows? But it doesn't really matter. Either way, it's using human inputs.
And it reminds me of a movie I recently watched when I was on a flight to London. I was bored, and I watched the movie Megan, which is definitely more of a silly robot movie, not like.
Did you watch the full thing? Did you watch the full thing? Because
like more serious ones like iRobot, which I loved growing up. I watched that as a kid all the time. But Megan is about
watched it all the time. Okay.
About this girl who lost her parents in a car crash, and
interesting. iRobot.
She's lonely. She doesn't have any friends, and she is gifted this robot
that is in prototype. So interesting strategy from the Guardian there.
Megan, who is this, humanoid robot who becomes her best friend.
By the way, can I just say one thing? Humanoid robots are highly concerning. Highly concerning. Because they're not really useful for any like tasks that are like jobs or anything. You would purpose build a robot for that. And if you want a robot to do multiple jobs, you still wouldn't use a human. Now, are humans able to do a lot of jobs? Yeah, but you can have much better designs, Except, there's one thing. You need a humanoid robot for human-to-human contact, where a human might perhaps want to ensure that the robot is as comparable as possible to a human. Enter Elon Musk, who apparently made a life-sized adult robot. And I'm guessing there's only one fucking reason for that, and that's for the fucking. I just saying, like, it just feels like a bit dodgy in the extreme. Like, it feels like that's one of the only purposes a humanoid robot would have, which is to simulate a human in that sense. That's my personal opinion. I wouldn't be interested in that personally, but, you know, it's just look at the people who are designing humanoid robots, or, you know, want them at least, maybe not actually design them, you know, they're kind of design with like a crayon, like, I want this, engineers, build me this, that sort of thing. You know, there you have this sort of thing there where it's like, yeah, that's going to be a bit of a dodgy one. I feel like that's good. There's a reason for that, and that's yeah. But anyway, so the review of Megan. Let's get back to that. I'm not sure if they watched the full thing because.
And Megan knows everything about this little girl. Megan knows just what to say and how to comfort her. This movie is definitely more silly.
I would say how. Like, did the parents know that? Does the guardian know that? Because clearly they don't. You know, otherwise they'd use it themselves. So yeah, I mean, it's weird that they do know that. Like, how exactly? Once again, it's the same thing with, like, you know, it's not as same, but, like, you know, there's something when you're like, yes, I know more than my child about my child, which makes total sense because I know that because wait, no. The only way you'd know more about your child than your child is if your child forgot something about themselves. Understand? Because the child is like a leaky sieve of information about the world, other people, and also about themselves. But they need to release that information in order for you or anybody else to know. Now, perhaps maybe it's more subtle, but they maybe not realize. But that's the only real way, is if leak the information and then they forget, or they don't realize. Anyway, weird tangent on the Megan
really
thing.
Scary, even though it's supposed to be a horror movie. But that's besides the point. I think.
Well, that kind of shows that your mind is slightly fucked up. Like, it's like Megan kills multiple people. Well.
It is very interesting how she was able to manipulate this young girl. Spoiler alert, by the way, in case you wanted to watch it. I'm going to talk about the plot. But this robot made the girl feel like she's the only person on this planet. Like, that's even what she said. And because Megan is personalized, she knows just what to say. She can read her emotions. And so obviously the little girl would rather spend every second with Megan than deal with the grief, with the trauma, and then go out and make actual, you know, friends.
But what the people would say was what is the difference? You know, there is obviously a difference between, you know, like a text on a screen and a actual thing. But this is a robot that's designed to imitate a human in every single way. It is almost exactly, you know, question of, well,
and I think we're not far from this happening in real life. People are already choosing to talk to chatbots instead of real people. There's no.
But no offense meant, but like if you're my only option for a friend, I'd fucking talk to a chatbot over you. You're a horrible person. So, like, you know, the choice of, oh, do I pick this person who is a moron or this chatbot, which is interesting. Also, are they treating them like a friend, or are they treating them like a tool that they use? Once again, when the person uses the humanoid robot, they're treating them like a tool for use, you know, not necessarily emotional connection in the same way that you
in-person
want.
Social interactions. You don't have that body language or facial expressions that you get with a real person.
I mean,
it's just
facial expressions. There are things that have facial expressions, but yeah,
just a screen, and they just talk to the robot thing. So I don't think we're too far from this happening. You know, back to the movie, of course, at the end she starts murdering people and breakdancing for some reason. But I think it was interesting to see how we're actually not too far away from this, especially when
What?
these sort of humanoid robots will be available to regular people.
Once again, only one reason for human robot I can see, and it's that. You know, because really, why else? Like, it's the kind of thing of, like, you know, when Apple releases, like, the Apple Vision Pro, it's like, but what is that useful for? You're only going to buy that for if you need it or are very wealthy, and you can buy, you know, a phone as well and all that sort of stuff. So, like, who's going to buy a humanoid robot? You wouldn't buy it if you needed tasks to be done that were beyond that task. Because you just get a different type of robot. But of course, a different type of robot, you can't simulate that sort of stuff, you know? I'm just saying, you know.
Because I think it's one thing to have a evil robot like Hal, for example, from Space Odyssey, where it's just this ominous red light and eerie voice, so people know, oh, that's a robot. So yes, the crew kind of trusted him in the beginning, but they still understood this is a robot. It's another thing to have a humanoid robot like David 8, for example, from a science fiction movie I like called Prometheus.
I understand human emotions, although I do not feel them myself. I can make your organization more efficient. I can carry out directives that my human counterparts might find distressing or unethical.
Was an android or a real life robot like Amica. You know, I think when that's going to be available to buy, I think a lot of people are going to want that robot and prefer the robot.
Interesting. But no, the point is, though, is that you shouldn't have human robots. From a efficiency standpoint, why would you have a human or a robot? Makes very little sense, except for that task of communication, shall we say. And not, I mean, obviously there is other forms of communication where people would feel more comfortable with that. I'm just saying that in general, why exactly have a human robot? Well, you know, that's the main. Anyway, continuing on with the conversation. Shall we say? Fucking Christ, come on. Anyway, moving on.
Robot over friends, over partners. I think people are going to get attached really quickly because you give it a face, you give it a name, you give it a personality.
Well, in most cases, you don't give it that. Someone else does.
People are already becoming attached to chat bots and, you know, things like that. I think, you know, what is the future going to look like when just anybody can buy a humanoid robot?
I feel like not anybody will be able to buy a humanoid robot. I feel like it will be very expensive, and yes, a lot of people will buy them. There'll be rich people who will be into some tasks. And also, I feel like a secondary thing that humanoid robots will be used is power fantasies. So people who want to basically have a slave, but, you know, don't want to go to prison for having a slave or be, you know, assaulted because they have a slave, will, you know, buy a humanoid robot so that they can imagine, you know, that they have a little slave.
Isolate themselves and talk to the robot instead of going out into the real world and working on, let's say, their social anxiety. I mean, I just made a video about escapism.
Yeah, but the point is, though, is that if you talk to a robot, aren't you at that point working on social anxiety? Because now you're talking to the robot. The robot is able to get you out of your shell and stuff like that. You know, that in itself is taking out of social anxiety. That's, you know, so, you know, I don't see how exactly having a negative experience would, you know, let's say you come up and you talk to someone and then they like make fun of you, maybe even hit you, abuse you, maybe emotionally, all this sort of thing. That's not going to help you, is it? Best case scenario, you get to leave and you are fine, but not better skills. That's going to negatively affect you. If you want to improve something, it's better to have a more controlled environment. Ensure that that person who you speak to won't be a prick and fucking do something, you know? See See why it's...
I think that this is taking that to a whole other level. And of course, these robots aren't programmed with a conscience or a soul, which many people say is what makes us human, which is what makes us irreplaceable. But will a
No.
patient care if a system has a soul, if it's able to diagnose you more accurately than any doctor ever could? In the medical field, the AIs are identifying diseases. They have these tiny robots assisting, in surgeries and all these medical procedures, curing diseases. It's amazing. And there's talk of reversing aging even. So it can be great when it comes to healthcare, also education. People can learn at home. Also, transportation is probably going to be made safer.
No. I don't think that. Safer? No. As safe, perhaps. The problem is that when you have an artificial intelligence, safer is an arguable thing because, well, obviously the AI is not going to get drunk. It's not going to be on drugs. It's not going to be sleepy. But once you remove sleepy drivers, drunk drivers, drivers on drugs, drivers who are, maybe not necessarily shouldn't be qualified, those sort of things from the equation, you do get a thing of like, well, most drivers are relatively safe. You're not gonna be able to deal with, like, let's say there's icy conditions. Doesn't help if AI is driving that product, because like it's just doesn't really matter. Like, it's gonna slip, it's gonna slide, it's gonna crash. That's not really a thing there. The benefit of the idea, though, is that AI will be able to communicate with itself. So if it's one AI monitoring all these different things, it means that it won't crash, because it's not going to be doing obstacle avoidance. It's not going to be like, oh, a car is passing, I have to stop. Because what happens if a car behind it is being driven and they smash in the back of it, all that. But if all vehicles are AI driven, by the way, one way to do this is just to do fucking trains. Just to do trains. You have a train, it's on a track. Anyway, the point is that when you have this sort of thing here, it's okay. Well, if it's all communicating with each other, it knows where everything is, not because it has sensors, but literally because it is also it. If you know what I mean, like it's also driving that car. The problem, of course, is, does it have that connection? What if that connection drops? All those sort of things. What are the effects there? And it's always the thing of like, well, for example, always the time of well, if you lose a skill because you think, oh, technology can do that, what happens when technology breaks? If you go, I have the map on a phone, well, what happens if your phone goes out of power? All these things occur, and it's always an issue with technology where it is a question of, well, do we have the ability to ensure that it is as good? Or are we simply saying, oh, it'll stop these issues, but will it open itself to new issues? If the AI falls for a minute, that could mean no cars at all. I don't think self-driving things are necessarily a bright future because of that. It is a clear example of using computing to create new problems on top of removing old ones.
Scientific research, we're more connected because of AI, virtual assistants, which we are already using. So obviously there are many ways that this can enhance our lives, but there are also many risks. Please let me know what you think about this. Do you think that the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to AI? So please comment your thoughts below. Also, remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can see my next video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.
Okay, well, that's that. I think, you can subscribe to my channel. At the end of the day, I'd just like to point this point that AI, I think, is it friend or foe? I think the current way it's running, it's definitely worse. I think that AI will probably replace a lot of workers, but not in the sense of making it so that they don't have to work and they can enjoy their lives, but in the sense of just removing them. Because currently companies, that's the road they're going down. Just the idea of like, no, we'll replace you and we won't have to pay you. I think that they will have caused a small problem, which would be they will have to dramatically reduce prices, and this causes an issue because when companies en masse like reduce people's wages or fire them, they also en masse reduce their profits because, well, they can't make as much money if they don't pay anyone anything, because then no one has any disposable income. So everyone has to sort of go with like nothing. Like, well, what can you do? When you can't work, when you can't be competitive, there's no real way for a company to be like, oh, well, then you have to work for food. Yeah, you have to work an entire day for a scrap of bread. That's not going to work when your value will never be as good as an AI. It'll never be as good as a robot. It'll never be able to do that. So what is the purpose there? You cause a massive issue there because, like, why would you ever be paid? There's no real way except the only way I can see it is this sort of like a look on of like people enjoying your pain and suffering, and then being like, okay, I'll keep you alive so I can enjoy that pain and suffering, that sort of thing. So that you're sort of like, they're similar to the Irish model where they didn't really need Irish people to do anything, so they just got them to build roads to nowhere. They just got them to build monuments for no reason, just a folly. It was just nothing really. There's no purpose to it. There's no reason for it. It was just make them do something. They have to do something for the food, even though there's nothing that needs to be done. They have to do something for the food. The sort of insistence, you must do something. So, and that caused a problem there. So yeah, overall, I think AI is going to replace workers. I would feel like there probably will be a point where AI will replace workers when it's not ready. We already see this with the use of AI. AI they tried to replace over the call, like a call center sort of thing. They tried to replace it there. That was a disaster because then AI was doing all those sort of things there. And I think that will continue. That eventually, I think that will happen. But eventually, I think AI will be able to replace these workers. Now, alternatively, in an alternative world, would be possible that AI could replace workers differently and replace them in the sense that they could replace them and sort of continue to let workers and people enjoy their lives. Where they wouldn't need to do labor because AI could do that. I think that is a possible future, but I don't think that's a probable future. Anyway, thank you for watching, and yeah, you can subscribe to the channel, you can view other videos, and goodbye.